Everybody, welcome to the second episode of Sunday Cup of Joe with Joe Knows, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. Been scrambling at the last minute here. I'll tell you, if you were watching my in this during this summer, if you were watching my have videos for each team, you probably heard my dog Melvin quite a few times chiming in, and he's become a little bit of the show, part of the show over here, and he's given me some last second difficulties himself. So needed to get fed, needed to go out in the backyard and to make sure that Melvin was all taken care of and calm before I could sit down and do everything. And I like to be prompt when I start my shows, my live shows. I was supposed to start at 8 o'clock this morning. It's now 8:09. So I was kind of scrambling a little bit at the last second and got a little confused with all some of the new bells and whistles that I have going on here with the show. So I do apologize. I do like to be prompt, and in the future, I will do better for you, the viewer. I apologize. But anyway, guys, it's Sunday morning, September 12th, another beautiful morning. We've got football, football, football. What a great weekend. And I want to give my hats off, I should say my hat off to take my hat off to the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. That Thursday night game was fantastic. What a great way to kick off the NFL season for 2021. Usually the Thursday night games stink, and but not this year. That was a great game. So many good storylines in that Buccaneers game on Friday as well in college football. A lot to review with that. I don't think it was as good a week, as fun a week as it was last week, but definitely some interesting upsets. Definitely, teams moving up and down in the rankings. We're going to get to that in a little bit. And after we review the NCAA games, then we're going to hop in to my preview of the rest of the NFL games this week for today, Sunday, as well as Monday night. I'm going to give my picks as well. I get some bragging rights with that Dallas Bucks game because I did take Dallas with the points, and I took the Bucks to win straight up. But I thought it was going to be a lot closer than the spread was indicating, and I was proven right. We'll get to that later. And plus, some obviously over the past few days, my Wednesday night show, which is my review preview of the NFL games. It's a review of the previous week's NFL games and a preview of the upcoming games. Um, in that, I go into what I'm looking for. Those in the Wednesday night show, I go into what I'm really looking forward to, what I'm looking forward to in each NFL game, and I also give my predictions with the spread and without the spread. So I go more in depth there on the Wednesday night shows, but I'm kind of doing a recap here. Plus the spreads, some of the spreads did change, and that did alter some of my picks for this weekend's game. So you'll see, and I'm looking forward to getting to that. But please, if you're watching the show, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and give us a 5-star Apple review if you're watching it on Apple. If you're not watching it on Apple, go to Apple anyway, give us a 5-star review because we deserve it. Thanks so much. Okay, let's get into college football for this weekend. First of all, I'm going to start off with an honorable stinker award, which in my opinion goes to Florida State University, who's now 0-2. You can't have a great game last weekend against Notre Dame, which is a ranked team. I think Notre Dame. I think they were ranked pretty high. I think they might have been as high as 9, if I recall correctly. Notre Dame and Florida State gave them everything they possibly could. You could even say that Florida State probably should have won that game, but I had a feeling that was going in. I had going into that game last week. I had a feeling Notre Dame was going to have a very tough time against Florida State in Florida State. Week one, the first game for both teams, everyone was going to be juiced up. I thought Florida State was going to show up for that game, and I was right. They did, and it was really close. If I recall correctly, the game went into overtime, but even if I'm wrong about that, it was very close. And Notre Dame squeaked out the win. And I expected Florida State to come out here and handle Jacksonville State, and they lost 20-17. You can't do that. You can't do that. After 1 week. I know Florida State's not a ranked team, but they are still one of the bigger programs in the country. You can't go out and lay an egg against Jacksonville State after almost having a major upset against Notre Dame. You just can't do that. And I feel bad for the coach. I forgot the coach's name of Florida State, but he made a statement where he's like apologized to the fans and basically everyone else for the team losing this week. I don't think a coach should ever have to apologize, nor should the players. I mean, no one is trying to lose a game, but you know what? That really stunk. And I was rooting for Florida State because I'm rooting for the Florida teams to make a comeback, become extremely relevant again. Florida, the Gators are extremely relevant again, but I'm looking for the University of Miami, to be relevant again, just like they were in the '90s, and Florida State, just like they were in the '90s as well. And well, Florida State actually was relevant, not too long ago when they won the championship game with Jameis Winston at quarterback. But I'm looking for the big Florida teams to be very relevant again. And I was disappointed in FSU's performance, but I feel bad for the coach, feeling like he has to apologize. He shouldn't have to apologize. But anyway, let's get into the games. 17, ranked 17, Coastal Carolina. Wow, ranked 17, and they're going to stay there. 2-0, they defeated Kansas, who's now 1-1, 49-22. So Coastal Carolina, not too many people are familiar with this team. This is an up and coming program. Obviously, they're ranked 17. And man, my alarm keeps going off. I do apologize about that. They took care of business against Kansas, 49-22. And you had Grayson McCall of Coastal Carolina went 17 for 21 for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. Let me get into the specifics here. So yeah, so he had a nice game there himself. You had running back Reese White of Coastal Carolina, who went for 102 yards, 3 touchdowns. Damn. And then you had Javon Hiley. I think it's pronounced Haley, wide receiver for Coastal Carolina, 122 yards and 6 receptions, a 20.3 average with a touchdown. Really nice. So Coastal Carolina had a good game. They're looking solid. I don't know if they're going to stay ranked as high as 17th throughout the season, but man, they're a small program that's been up and coming for the past few years. They're getting better and better. And it's nice to see a smaller program like that being, ranked. They're not even ranked like 25 or 24. They're ranked 17. It's exciting to see. So go Coastal Carolina. That might become one of my sweethearts this season. We'll see how it goes, but I'm rooting for a smaller program like that. Okay, let's move on to the next game. You got ranked number one, Alabama, taking care of business. They're 2-0, taking care of business against Mercer, 48-14. Not a surprise there. Let's get into those stats there. Of course, the quarterback Bryce Young of Alabama off to a great start to his career. The guy had 277 yards passing, 19 for 27, 3 touchdowns. Not a great passing average, only 8.5 yards per reception. But you know what? Whatever. 3 touchdowns. His quarterback rating is only 37.1, so he didn't have any interceptions. So nice, clean game. I mean, it's against Mercer, but what do you want? And also on the Alabama side, Brian Robinson Jr. Yet another good performance this week. 10 carries, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. So there's another name you definitely want to keep, in the back of your mind for future drafts, because that guy is probably going to wind up being one of the top running backs taken in future drafts, in the future NFL draft. And then moving on to you had number two Georgia taking care of University of Alabama Birmingham, otherwise known as UAB, 56-7. So Georgia is now 2-0. Birmingham, University of Alabama, Birmingham is now 1-1. And Georgia won this game 56-7. Like I said, they seriously took care of business. And we'll get into the box score over here, the performances over here. I don't think there's really any huge. Well, listen, Stetson Bennett, the quarterback for Georgia, put up 5 touchdowns, and there was 288 yards. But there's some context to this too, and that's nothing against Stetson Bennett, the quarterback for Georgia. That performance, 288 yards and 5 touchdowns, was on 10 completions on 12 attempts. So, obviously they completely overmatched UAB. Um, on the rushing side, you had plenty of guys getting plenty of carries for 163 yards total by Georgia. Zamir White had 34 yards rushing on 7 carries. That's a 4.9 average. Dejon Edwards had 7 carries for 29 yards at a 4.1 clip. And a bunch of other guys, ran for yards too. So for a total of 163 yards. So on the receiving side, Brock Bowers had 107 yards on 3 receptions, 35.7 average per reception for 2 touchdowns. So that's a real standout game there. So, but like I said, I mean, they're going up against UAB. They completely outclassed them. So it's not a big surprise. So you know what? Georgia's going to obviously stay number two um, in the rankings. There's no reason why they're going to go down, but I don't think they'll be going up either because Alabama took care of Mercer handily. So Alabama should stay number one. Georgia should stay number two. Let me check the comments section over here. Johnny Shep's chiming in. Yep. Good morning, Joe, he says. And then he says, maybe Notre Dame and FSU just stink. You know what, John? I think I agree with you. I agree with you. I think Notre Dame is, yeah, I'm a Notre Dame. I follow Notre Dame. That's one of the teams that I like to follow. I hope you guys aren't hearing that. We've got the ESPN page up as my point of reference here. And but Notre Dame, I think they're just, I can't stand when a team like ranked like 7, 6, 5th, and then they come up against one of the big teams like Alabama and Georgia, and they get manhandled. And last week they got, they they were given everything they could possibly take by FSU, and and I was disappointed in Notre Dame for that. And this week I'm disappointed in FSU for their loss. Just horrible against Jacksonville State. So, John, you know what? I think these games stink. Just like Corey Davis, I think they stink. And yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, the tight end from Coastal Carolina, big time NFL prospect, and Coastal Carolina, they're getting better and better, and we should keep our eyes on them. So they're probably going to come up against a team that's going to, punch them in the nose sometime this season. But I like seeing these smaller programs. They're exciting. They really are. So, but moving on, let me get back to my banners over here. And I think I have to get rid of the comments. I'm not too used to working with the comments here, but I'm trying to incorporate them and getting better as I go along. But anyway, so again, Georgia took care of business. You see that Stetson Bennett put up those big numbers, but it was on 10 attempts. I mean, there wasn't really much he had to do against UAB. They just manhandled the team. Okay, the big upset of the week. And these are two very good teams, so it's not big in terms of like, it's not like Oregon was unranked and they came in and defeated Ohio State, but they pretty much handled Ohio State pretty well. Oregon came in ranked number 12. Ohio State came ranked in number 3. Normally, like they are, they usually ranked like 3 to 5. And I'm impressed with Oregon won 35-28. Now, I remember I sent out a tweet yesterday, I think in the middle of the third quarter when it was 28-14 Oregon. I sent out a tweet saying, looks like an upset in the making. And that, I was definitely looking forward to talking about this game today. And but I was worried in the back of my mind. I did say in the tweet I was worried in the back of my mind that there was still a quarter and a half to go. Ohio State is explosive. I could easily see Oregon, even though Oregon's a good team. Oregon was missing its probably its best overall player in defensive end, Tavon Thibodeau, who is probably he's got a chance to be. We'll see how the quarterbacks are this year in the draft. I'm not crazy about this quarterback draft class, to be honest with you, even though Rattler had a really good game. We'll get to that later. I wouldn't be surprised if Thibodeau winds up being the number 1 draft pick in this upcoming draft. He's that good. He's a defensive end. He does everything like perfectly. The guy really has no weakness. And he was out this game. I think if I recall correctly, it was maybe like an ankle injury. It's not supposed to be a long-term injury, I don't believe. But with him, being out, I was shocked that Oregon won this game. I would have been surprised if they won anyway, because Oregon doesn't travel the country well. I don't think like they don't play well against Ohio State normally. They don't play well against the teams in the Southeast, whether it's the SEC teams or the better ACC teams. But here they came in and they took care of business. Very impressive. And they let's get to the box score in that game there and with Oregon. But like I said, I was surprised because they really don't normally perform well against the big boys. They go again, and I consider Ohio State one of the big boys. They usually go up against the big boys and they get punched in the mouth. Ohio State, C.J. Stroud, quarterback. The guy went for 484 yards, 35 of 54. So the guy was passing the crap out of all this game. 54 attempts, 35 completions, 484 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's not bad at all. You look at Ohio State, the receiving, Jackson Smith, Nagaba, if I'm saying that name correctly, 145 yards and 7 receptions, 20.7 clip. That is 20.7 average reception per reception. Chris Olave, one of the best, possibly the best wide receiver in this upcoming draft. He had 126 yards. 10 and a half yards per reception. Garrett Wilson had 117 yards on 8 receptions for 14.6 average. So the Ohio State passing game certainly did its job, but Ohio State defense did not show up at all. And Anthony Brown, quarterback for Oregon, 2 touchdowns, 236 yards, 17 completions on 35 attempts. The rushing back, C.J. Verdell, or is it Verdell, for Oregon, 161 yards on 20 carries. That's an 8.1 average against Ohio State. damn, that is really impressive. And he had 2 touchdowns. So the man of this game, even though CJ Stroud had those eye-popping numbers for a quarterback, CJ Verdell is the man of this game. He's the MVP of this game, undoubtedly. 161 yards again, 2 touchdowns for Oregon. He is the man. And I'm just looking at the stats over here. It wasn't like Oregon only had 2 sacks. So impressive that, you know what, Ohio State had no sacks. Very impressive. So the Oregon Ducks offensive line does the job. Incredible. That was a great game. So I would assume Ohio State's going to take a little bit of a dip in their ranking, maybe 4, maybe 5, but nothing big. And Oregon State should be shooting up from 12 to, I'd say, at least 10, but maybe more, because that was a big time win against a big time opponent. Okay, moving on to Oklahoma. Number 4, Oklahoma takes care of business against Western Carolina, 76-0. Listen, you see these, you see the big time programs manhandle the smaller programs like Western Carolina. That's how it's supposed to be at 76-0. And I don't feel bad when they run up the score, because unfortunately, point differential and points scored is a factor in how teams are ranked. So there's no shame in that at all. There's nothing wrong. You really can't take your foot off the opponent's neck in this situation, because unfortunately, like I said, point total, points scored, it all goes towards national rankings. So Oklahoma took care of business. Let's go to the box score over here. Of course, Spencer Rattler, only 243 yards, but there's really not so much he really had to do. Spencer Rattler, 20 completions on 26 attempts, and he just a 9.3 average. He had 5 touchdowns, but obviously they're going against very mediocre competition. None of the wide receiver numbers really stick out here for Oklahoma. They did have a total of 347 receiving yards. The receptions, the attempts, and the receptions were spread out across the entire receiving core here. In terms of rushing, and nothing special either here. You had Eric Ray, Oklahoma, rushing for 74 yards. And for a total, for an average of 8.2. You had Caleb Williams rushing for 4 carries, 60 yards, a clip of 15 point yards per carry. So, and the team as a whole, the rushing game as a whole for Oklahoma, averaged 7.3 yards per carry. They averaged 12.9 yards per reception. So they completely dominated here. Really nothing to talk about on the Western Carolina side. So I'm not really going to go into it. But again, you know what? Number 4, Oklahoma took care of business. I assume they're probably going to stay number 4. I don't really see them going up. I certainly don't see them going down, but good for them. They took care of business. They did exactly what they needed to do. Okay, moving on to number 5, Texas A&M hangs on against Colorado. Texas A&M is 2-0 though, and they hung on against Colorado, who's now 1-1. Colorado wasn't ranked. This is a disappointing game for Texas A&M. This was a defensive game, surprisingly. So the final score was 10-7. Let's get to that box score over here. And nothing sexy here. We're looking at Texas A&M, Zach Calzada, quarterback, 18 for 38, not good at all. 183 yards total, 4.1. I'm sorry, 4.8 yards per catch, and only 1 touchdown. Even the running game, you're looking at a total of 97 yards rushing, 191 yards receiving for Texas A&M. So you're nothing great there, and nothing really great from the Colorado side either. So I'm not going to waste time going into it. There's nothing eye-popping here at all. Even on the defensive side in terms of sacks, like there's nothing sexy there at all. So it seems like this was a game that was played between both teams 40-yard lines, obviously not too many field goals, not too many touchdowns. So kind of a boring game, but very shocking that number 5 Texas A&M, who is normally a pass happy team and a team that puts up a lot of points, not really getting it done against Colorado. So disappointing there. I would expect Texas A&M to take a bit of a dive, or not a dive, but a bit of a dip on the ranking here, because that's not a good showing. So let's move on to our Clemson game. Clemson taking care of business. Clemson came into this game ranked number 6. They were 1-1. So they needed this win anyway, but not a surprise. They defeated South Carolina State 0-2, who's now 0-2. Clemson took care of business 49-3. I think Clemson last week was it last. I think it was Georgia they got upset by last week. So, which wasn't a surprise. Georgia is always one of the top teams, but Clemson's 101. We don't normally see them in that position, especially in the Trevor Lawrence years. They're usually getting out to like a 6-0 start if they even lose a game during the season. So they're already 1-1, but they needed this game. They're ranked number 6, defeated South Carolina State, who's now 0-2, and the final score is 49-3. Let's get into that box score over here. And you are looking at, okay, so you know what? I gotta okay, memo to Joe. Joe, you have to start practicing how to pronounce Clemson's quarterback's name. So it's DJ and it begins with U. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his last name. It begins with the U, but I gotta practice that. Not a great game. Only 14 for 24 for 171 yards and one touchdown, one interception. Not a very good game at all. This is totally a rushing game by Clemson. They put up a total of 242 yards rushing. Will Shipley, 80 yards rushing. Kobe Pace put up 68 yards rushing. And the receiving game was a total of 262 yards receiving. It was spread out. The receptions were spread out across the entire wide receiver core. So very good job there. So they knew who they were playing against. They just spread the ball all over the place. And I will say with on for South Carolina for the Gamecocks. Wolverine wide receiver, nice game. He had 4 receptions, 96 yards, 24 yards per reception, no touchdowns, but still, that is a very nice game for the South Carolina receiver. And I'm just looking at not too many sacks here. Really, you had Clemson had 1 interception. South Carolina, Jacoby Durant had 2 interceptions. So nice showing there, guys. Nice showing. And but Clemson took care of business like they should have. And I assume they're probably going to rank number 6. You destroys a program like South Carolina State. I don't think that's gonna who wasn't ranked. I don't think that's going to really move you up the rankings. So, but I don't think they're going to move down the rankings either. So moving on to Cincinnati Bearcats, 2-0. I was shocked. Cincinnati is ranked 7th now. I think they were ranked 8th last week. So they moved up 1 coming into this game. And I was just shocked to see Cincinnati ranked as high as 8 and now they're 7, but they're taking care of business over here. Go Bearcats. I'm not a Bearcats fan, but you know, Cincinnati is usually not a team that we're talking about being ranked in the top 10. And yet here they are for the 2nd week in a row. They took care of business against Murray State. And let's go into that box score there. Cincinnati, again, the final score was 42-7 Cincinnati. You had Desmond Ritter, quarterback for Cincinnati, 14 for 22, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You had 130 yards rushing total by Bearcats. Jerome Ford, 18 carries, 113 yards, 3 touchdowns. Great game, Mr. Jerome Ford. Great game. On the receiving side for Cincinnati, Tyler Scott had 74 yards and a touchdown. And and they spread it around. They had 261 yards, 261 yards total receiving. Cincinnati did, and they spread the ball around really well. Just looking for some eye-popping numbers from Murray State. Surprisingly, I should say unsurprisingly, I'm not seeing it at all. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, not a surprising result here at all. We'll move on to the next game. Notre Dame. Notre Dame, like Coach Shep said, maybe just Notre Dame just stinks because listen, you hung on last week against Florida State University, who was not ranked, and then you hang on this week against Toledo, who's not ranked. And Notre Dame is ranked number 8. I'm telling you, they need to be falling at this point. You can't put up 2 games like this against unranked teams and still be ranked number 8. In my opinion, you can't be ranked in the top 10. They should probably drop down to 13 because that's ridiculous. You can't do that. Notre Dame's defense is looking scary bad, looking really scary bad, except for their outstanding safety, who's probably going to be like a top 7 or 8 pick next year. But that's bad. So Notre Dame QB Jack Cohen, he had a winning drive. He had 2 touchdowns, even though he had dislocated his finger. The guy was sacked 6 times. I'm shocked about that. Okay, Toledo, maybe they've got a really good defense, but this is Notre Dame. We're talking about Notre Dame for a long time now has been known for the quality of offensive linemen that they produce that translate well to the NFL. Notre Dame you can put up there, Wisconsin you can put up there. I think Iowa you can put up there. Those are like 3 college programs that you can pretty much count on. And now Alabama too. Alabama like 10 years ago, I used to be scared by Alabama offensive linemen. To me, it used to be like with Alabama, University of Alabama, that it used to be like there was just so much talent on the offensive line. Just as a unit, they were so dominant that when you actually got them to the NFL and you spread them around the NFL, they didn't really translate well, especially their tackles. Not anymore. The Alabama offensive linemen are really good, and they've been like that for like the past 5 years now. But you can usually count on Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Iowa, and maybe Penn State a little bit too. But I'm really shocked by 6 sacks allowed for Notre Dame. That's disappointing. That's scary because Jack Cohen's off to a really nice start this year. He's put up a bunch of touchdowns. The guy is looking like a gamer. And I'm really worried about Notre Dame. And in my opinion, they should be bumped down to like out of the top 12. Really disappointing showing. And Notre Dame, when you wind up going against some of those top ranked teams like, say like Georgia, Alabama, even Clemson, uh, Ohio State, I'm scared for you. I'm really scared for you. So you know what? Let me go real quickly into the box score here. But because he did have some good individual performances, don't get me wrong. But again, Jack Cohen, 239 yards. It's not eye-popping. He went 21 for 33, 2 touchdowns and interception. This guy was harassed all game long. Got sacked 6 times. That's ridiculous, and that's disappointing. You're Notre Dame, for God's sake. Give me a break. Kyron Williams went 16 carries for 78 yards. Not eye-popping. Let's see, Michael Mayer, wide receiver for Notre Dame, 7 receptions, 81 yards. And again, the receptions were spread around. They did have a total of 317 receiving yards. The wide receivers had here for Notre Dame. The ball was spread around very, very well by Jack Cohen. And I'm just looking at some of the defensive numbers. All right, Notre Dame did have 5 sacks, and I'm looking at where's the safety again? The safety. All right. But anyway, just not a great performance. And you had, let's see over here, for the quarterback for Toledo, 213 yards. That's Carter Bradley, 213 yards total, no touchdowns. You had Bryant Koback rushing. Bryant Koback was a running back for Toledo, 122 yards, 5.8 average. That's pretty good. He had a touchdown. And you had Devin Maddox for Toledo, wide receiver, 135 yards and 9 receptions, 15 yards per reception. Nice job. Very nice job here. Yeah, and again, wow, man, you're talking about. I'll tell you, look out for these Toledo linebackers. Terrence Taylor had uh, had two had two sacks, and Deontay Johnson, another linebacker for Toledo, had 10 total tackles, 8 of them solo. So those are really good numbers. So again, Notre Dame, you're scaring the crap out of me. All right, let's move on to the next game over here. Number 10, Iowa, 2-0 now. They defeated number 9 Iowa State 27-17. Really good game, actually. It was kind of like Iowa actually kind of dominated this game, and Iowa State kind of actually got some junk points at the end there. I wasn't surprised by this just because I know Iowa State's got talent, but Iowa's just more of a proven program, and that means something to me. Um, and so I wasn't surprised. I would expect these two teams to flip-flop rankings at least. I don't think Iowa State's going to drop really out of the top 11. They might drop to like number 11, but I'll tell you, Iowa State should definitely be ahead of Notre Dame after this week. In Iowa, might take Notre Dame's spot at number 8. So I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. All I know is that Notre Dame's got to drop in the rankings to at least 12. They have to. But Iowa State, let's see. Let's get into that game as well. All righty. Box score. No, wrong one over there. Okay. So not a great performance by really like these QB performances. Okay, Iowa State, Brock Purdy, 138 yards on 13 completions out of 27 attempts. So nothing great there. 3 interceptions. Ooh, ew, that's disgusting. Iowa quarterback Spencer Petras, 160 yards. I'm sorry, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. So yeah, even the even the rushing numbers for both teams were impressive. Iowa, the rushing, they had a total of 67 yards rushing. Iowa State had a total of 87 yards rushing. Not impressive there. Iowa State did have a total of 252 yards receiving. No one that really stood out, to be honest. None of the receivers stood out. The completions were spread around the entire wide receiving and tight end core there. So No eye-popping numbers there at all. And just looking at some of the defensive numbers over here, Iowa State, with a total of 4 sacks, Iowa with a total of 2 sacks. So kind of surprised that, you look at the numbers and it looks like you would think that Iowa State would have won this game, but it did not happen. And like I said, Iowa State's just more of they have a history of being a more proven program anyway. So I'm just not surprised by the result. So expect a flip flop in these rankings, but I don't think Iowa State's going to take too much of a big dip there, to be honest with you. And Iowa State should be sneaking up in the rankings there to like number 8. They'll probably take Notre Dame's spot there. Okay, moving on to Penn State. Penn State, number 11, takes care of. I hear this video in the background. Hang on one second, I'm getting distracted. It's this ESPN page, and it's annoying. These embedded videos that go off. Anyway, number 11, Penn State taking care of business against Ball State, not ranked. Penn State's now 2-0. 2-0. Ball State is now 1-1. Penn State took care of business 44-13. And let's get into that box score there. And Penn State, you know what? Last week, Penn State started off the season. They went into last week, if I recall correctly, ranked number 19. And I thought that was way too low for them. They had a big win last week, and they shot up to 11. You beat Ball State, you dominate Ball State. That's not really going to help you too much, but they should creep into the top 10 this week. You can say, oh, maybe they stay at 11 because they beat the crap out of Ball State, but it was Ball State. I would expect Penn State, now that they're 2-0, to move to at least to 10, maybe within the top 10. And they deserve it because I think Penn State is a top 10 program. They never should have been starting off the season at 19. That was absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I am defending Penn State, and they are one of the programs that I do follow and that I do root for, even though I am not emotionally invested. Okay, I'm getting to the box score here. Sean Clifford, quarterback for Penn State, 230 yards. The 230 yards passing, 21 for 29. Only a 7.9 average per completion. So nothing great. One touchdown, nothing great there either. And Noah Kane, running back for Penn State. He put up 69 yards on 20 carries. Kevon Lee, running back for Penn State, put up 68 yards on 8 carries. Sean Clifford put up 66 yards on 11 carries, and Devin Ford put up 32 yards on 6 carries. Penn State, not surprising, their bread and butter. They are a running back team. They're a rushing team. You look at Saquon Barkley, you look at Miles Sanders, who are both in the NFL now. You've got Penn State is always producing now for at least the past 5 years, if not going back further. Penn State's producing big time, legitimate NFL running backs. And so unsurprisingly, Penn State puts up 240 rushing yards. In the receiving game, they put up 253 yards receiving. Jahan Dotson put up 65 yards receiving. Parker Washington put up 57 yards receiving. And really nothing to report on here, to be honest with you, with Ball State. Just some decent numbers, spread around by the wide receivers, but nothing eye-popping here. The quarterback at Ball State, Drew Plitt, had 176 yards for 25 completions, 39 attempts, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. So not a pretty game at all. But Penn State, I'm glad to see you moving up the rankings because you deserve it. Okay, moving on to the next game. Number 13, Florida, they're moving up the rankings, 2-0. They took care of. Man, I'm still getting just background noise from these embedded videos from ESPN. So annoying. Hopefully you don't hear it, but I'm hearing it. Number 13, Florida, 2-0, defeated University of South Florida, 0-2. Not surprised at all. University of South Florida, USF, is one of these programs that I like to root for. They're a team they're a program that's putting out more and more NFL talent every year and better NFL talent every year. So, I've noticed that just, the past few drafts, I see more players coming out of University of South Florida, and they're getting drafted earlier and earlier. So I like this program. I'm disappointed to see them being 0-2, but I'm not surprised. They went up against a program that's still one of the premier college teams in Florida, even though they lost their quarterback and Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney, wide receiver. They lost those 3 key players last year in the draft. Florida is 2-0. I'm glad to see that. Like I said, I want to see the Florida teams make a comeback. And we'll take a break for comments here. 1 second. Let's see. Johnny. Kyle Hamilton. That's it. I was brain farting on the name and I couldn't find it before in the box score. Uh, Rich Gonzalez, good morning. What does Joe know today? Follow and you will find out. We are doing college right now, and we're going to do my predictions again for the NFL games coming up today, based on the new lines that came out, the new betting lines that came out this morning. That's right, Johnny, and coffee, baby. You know what? Let's take a little break. Let's wet that whistle. Mike D. Mike D's got a show later on today. 10. Actually, I don't know if it's starting at 10 or 10:30, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But that's the Blitz. I'll get more in depth later. He's doing it with Alex, and that is a sit. That's a start sit stream, live stream, and it's going to be call in. Or if you don't want to call in, you can just shoot in some comments in the comment section, and they will answer your questions. It's going to go on for about 2 hours. I think from 10:30 to 12:30 is the new time frame, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to listening to that. So that's going to be Mike D and Alex today. It's called the Blitz, starting at 10:30. Start, sit, and plenty of other fantasy advice. Watch it today, everyone. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be the premiere episode, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, all right, let's get away from the chat section over here. And I got to remember to turn off the chat when I'm done. All right, Joe. Got to get better at this, buddy. I'm a little rusty, people. Got to wet the whistle. So let's see. Moving on to the Florida game. Let's get into that box score there. Let's get into that box score. So what do we got over here? Okay, so you got Anthony Richardson for Florida. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Emory Jones, 14 for 22, 151 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Anthony Richardson, another quarterback for Florida, 3 for 3, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think Anthony Richardson is actually a running back. And, who was Anthony Richardson? Not a name I'm actually familiar with. So I got to get used to have to follow up on that name there. But 4 carry. He also, Anthony Richardson, besides passing for 2 touchdowns, also he had 4 carries for 115 yards. And yeah, he is a quarterback. So this guy will probably wind up making the NFL in the future as a like gadget quarterback trick player. Interesting. So Anthony Richardson had 3 completions on 3 attempts, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown. So this game, Anthony Richardson, you are the man. And then a wide receiver for Florida, Jake Copeland, 5 receptions, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Xavier Henderson, 68 yards, 1 touchdown. And those are probably the most eye-popping numbers there for Florida. Running back Emory Jones, 13 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. So that was nice there too. Nothing to brag about, honestly, from South Florida. Disappointed to see that. Xavier Weaver had 2 receptions, 68 yards for South Florida. So good to see there, but only 2 receptions, but 34 yards per reception. So it's good to see that, but really nothing to brag about on South Florida side there. And just, you know what, Florida Gators, you came in, you did what you had to do, you dominated, you took care of business. Good for you. I'm rooting for you, Florida. Okay, Stanford, big upset, big upset. I've got family over in Los Angeles. My wife is originally from Los Angeles, so I've got family over in LA. A lot of upset USC fans today. I know a lot of them are looking forward to this game, and they're talking about this game. USC demolished by Stanford 42-28. And you know what? I do believe USC was ranked 14. I don't have it in the blue bar here. I'm going to edit that right now. USC came into this game ranked number 14, and I was hoping to see them. I have nothing against Stanford. I really don't have a dog in that fight, but I was hoping to see, some of these West Coast teams become powerhouses again, just like the teams in Florida. I want to see some competition against the teams from the Southeast in the SEC and the ACC. I want to see those Florida teams, and I want to see some West Coast talent coming up. I want to see these teams become big time programs again. And so the only thing I'm really disappointed again in this result, like I said, I had no dog in this fight, is that USC was ranked 14 and they got demolished by Stanford. No, I'm not actually surprised, because what I am surprised is that Stanford wasn't ranked in the top 25. I'm really surprised about that. Because they're usually up there and they usually have some top flight talent, enough top flight talent to be ranked at least. And in these conference games, these interconference games, You never know what's going to happen. And I wasn't surprised by the result. A little surprised. I do. It was a legit upset. But Stanford beating them 42 to 28. If they were going to win, I would have thought Stanford would win like maybe 35-28. But they really handled them pretty well there. So let's get into the box score of that game there. And what do we have going on over here? You've got all right, so Stanford, you have Tanner McKee, quarterback for Stanford, 16 for 23, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 97.7. Very nice, 0 interceptions. Still not eye-popping numbers, but across the board, it's nice and steady. He had a QBR of 97.7. You've got Stanford running back Nathaniel Heat, 6 carries, 115 yards, and a touchdown. 6 carries, 115 yards. That's just a shade under 20 yards per carry running the ball. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. And then let's see over here. Nothing eye-popping on the receiving side for Stanford. And honestly, there's nothing eye-popping here on the USC side to really talk about. So you had 94 yards rushing by the USC running back Vivek Malapia, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying that name correctly, but 6.3 yards average. That's very nice. 15 carries, 94 yards, and that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much it. Nothing too impressive here for the USC Trojans. So I would expect them to take a really big dip on their rankings. And I'm gonna have to start speeding things up here a little bit because I've got stuff to do this morning, including my son's first flag football game of the season. He's in 8th grade, so it's his last season of flag football. Absolutely love watching those games. Really looking forward to it. But I got to speed things up here a little bit. Arkansas 2-0, 2-0, upsets and destroys number 15 Texas, 40-21. The Longhorns, otherwise known as the Matthew McConaughey's. I know he's a big fan of the team, so I like calling them the Matthew McConaughey's. Texas, you deserve to take a huge drop in the rankings. If you may even deserve to be knocked out of the rankings. That was ridiculous. Arkansas, first of all, Arkansas never should have been unranked, especially by week 2. Here they are, 2-0, destroy number 15 Texas, 40-21. I expect Arkansas to be ranked next week, and I expect Texas to take a well, when I say big drop, I'd say I expect them to take a drop to like number 19. That's an embarrassing showing. Like I said, I got to speed things up because I still have the NFL review coming up. I should say preview coming up, so I have to get through the rest of these games. Number 18, Wisconsin, 1-1, defeated Eastern Michigan, 34-7. Took care of business just like they should have. They were upset last week against I forgot against which team. Maybe it was Penn State. Well, it wasn't like a huge loss, but they lost to another team that was ranked pretty close to them, and so it was an admirable loss. Here they had a nice bounce back and destruction of Eastern Michigan like they needed to stay where they are, probably ranked at 18. Maybe they even go. Maybe they even move up a slot or two to like 17 or 16. But good showing by Wisconsin. They took care of business. Number 19, Virginia Tech, moving up the ranks. They're 2-0 now. They defeated Middle Tennessee 35-14. Middle Tennessee is now 1-1. Virginia Tech last week, I forgot who they upset against, but they had a big upset last week. And they were not ranked last week, if I recall correctly. Now they're number 19. I'd expect them to hold at 19 or maybe move up a little bit, but Virginia Tech, I'm rooting for you too. They're usually a tough program, and I was shocked that they were not ranked last week coming into the season. I was shocked by that. And here they are, 2-0, moving up. They're 19. I expect them to move up even more, maybe to 18 next week. Good to see. I like to see Virginia Tech, moving up the ranks because they usually have some like top talent, and they deserve to be up there. Okay, number 20, Ole Miss, another team that's taking care of business. They should move up the ranks this week as well. They're currently number 20. They're 2-0. They defeated Austin P, or is it Pay, or is it PA? Austin PA, 54-17. So they took care of business. They might move up a few ranks there, maybe to number 19, but they're moving up Ole Miss. I'm glad to see that. And they have a really good wide receiver, Ole Miss, by the way, but I just don't have time to get into it right now. I have to move along. BYU 2-0, taking care of Utah. BYU upset Utah. Utah came in ranked 21, ranked number 21. Utah is now 1-1. BYU won 26-17. I wasn't surprised by this because I am not a believer in the Utes. Never have been, never will be. I remember there was a lot of talk coming into the season about the Utes. as a team to look out for. And I was thinking, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. BYU, who is traditionally a better program than Utah, in my opinion, actually produces good NFL talent. Unlike Utah usually produces like second string guys, like bench warmers, like guys that make the NFL, but really don't tend to be all that great. BYU, on the other hand, does produce some really good gamers in the NFL. They pretty much put the shellacking on Utah 26-17. That's not too close. BYU, I wouldn't be surprised if they move into rankings next week. Actually, they should. They're 2-0. They just took care of a ranked team. Utah should drop to like number 24 or 25 if they don't move out of the rankings altogether this week. Okay, number 22, University of Miami, 1-1 hangs on against Appalachian State. Miami's University of Miami, DU, one of the programs that I do root for, and I am disappointed. They're ranked number 22. Yeah, they hung on after a disappointing loss last week. They took a shellacking like they deserved in the rankings all the way down to number 22. I think last week they might have been number 10. I think they might have been number 10. And I was shocked that they were ranked that high. I like University of Miami. I root for them, but I never thought they should be ranked that high. They took a shellacking in the rankings. They're now number 22. Oof. They might drop to number 25 this week. I don't think they'll drop out of the rankings just yet because they did win. And Appalachian State is a good smaller program, but University of Miami had no business just clinging on to a win here, 25-23. They really should have dominated this game, and that is a disappointing showing. So the University of Miami should drop down to like number 25, or maybe even drop out of the rankings. That's disappointing. That is disappointing. Moving on, Arizona State 23, 2-0. They're going to move up in the rankings, defeated UNLV 0-2, who's 0-2. Arizona State won this game 37-10. Not surprising at all. 23, I think they'll probably move up a spot or two in the rankings. So the manhandling in this game is not a surprise at all. I'm glad to see Arizona State should be moving up the rankings. They're 2-0. I'm happy to see that. Okay, number 24, UNC bounces back after a really disappointing game last week, disappointing loss last week. Came back, took care of business against Georgia State, who's 0-2. The final score was 59-17. Sam Howell, quarterback for UNC, had a bounce back game, but the horrible, crappy performance he had last week scares the crap out of me because he is supposed to be like one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. And teams like my Giants, if who have a lot invested in their young quarterback like Daniel Jones, if he does not have a good year this year, there are a lot of Giants fans who are saying that well, we need to take a new quarterback next year. I don't know if there's going to be a quarterback in this draft coming up in 2022 that's worthy of being of taking high in the first round to gamble on as a future franchise quarterback. I have serious doubts about Sam Howell. I have less doubts about Rattler. I like Rattler more, but I've got doubts about him too. But so far, Rattler is having a very good year. So I feel much better about Rattler. But Howell, I'm not a big fan of Sam Howell, and he had a big game this game. But geez, it's against Georgia State, and so after, like I said, the game last week that Sam Howell had was horrible. I think it was like 3 interceptions. You can't do that as like a guy who could possibly be a top 5 pick, who teams are looking at as possibly being a franchise quarterback for them, that they would invest like a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft in 2022. That was a very scary performance by Sam Howell. And I want to see him go up against a really good ranked team and put up a good performance because that scared me last week. And the destruction of Georgia State doesn't erase those concerns with Sam Howell for me. Okay, moving on. 25 Auburn, 2-0. They'll be moving up the rankings this week. They're now 2-0. They defeated Alabama State 62-0. They gave them a shellacking like they deserved. And that does it for the Arizona games. Now we're moving on to Joe Knows picks for the week with the spread and straight up. And let me do my share screen. I was successful with it last week. So this is the second time I'm going to do it. Here we go. Share screen. It's not the one I want. This is the window that I want. Are you showing the window? That's it. There we go. Share screen, baby. Share screen. What are you doing? All right, we'll do this. There we go. All right, here we go. I got to move back up to where I was. All right, so Joe Knows picks NFL Week 1. And I want bragging rights because it was Cowboys and Buccaneers. Buccaneers were given 7.5. I took the Cowboys with the points going into this game. I took the Buccaneers straight up to win. Actually, Dallas should have won that game. Dallas should have won that game. If it were not for the really bad performance by by Dallas's kicker Zerline, who's honestly he's usually one of the best kickers in the game. I was calling him, stinky during the game, joking around in some chats. That was a joke. Zerline's a very good kicker, but he had a really bad game and he cost them the game. I thought all along that Dallas was going to show up. They were going to be hungry for this game because of the season they had last year. Um, they've got a new defensive coordinator, and I thought Dallas's defense actually looked pretty good. There's only so much you can do against Tampa Bay's defense, their offense, that is. And but Dallas, I thought the defense actually showed up and actually played a pretty good game. And I was not surprised that Dak had a really good game. I wasn't surprised by it at all. I thought the Zeke would do a little more, but I wasn't surprised that he was pretty much bottled up. Buccaneers just have a great running defense, a great rushing defense. But Cowboys, they showed up. They really put on a great show. It was a great start to the NFL season, and great job by the Cowboys. Great job by the Buccaneers. They came back. Tom Brady, the GOAT, of course, comes back with like a minute left and leads them to the game-winning field goal. So not a surprise. But I want bragging rights because I took the Cowboys getting the points. A lot of people told us the titles were crapping on the Cowboys, saying that saying they expected the Buccaneers to absolutely demolish them by like at least touchdowns, by 2 touchdowns. So I was right there. Okay, moving on to this game, to Sunday games and the Monday games. Steelers at Bills. The Bills are given 6.5. I'm taking the Steelers in an upset. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills win. The Bills should win, but I'm taking the Steelers in an upset. I think they're. I want to see more from the Bills defense. I want to see more from the Bills defense. They weren't very good last year. They weren't horrible. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of their best talent is young. So I want to see the Bills' young defensive line start coming along. But I think the Steelers I think I have a feeling there's going to be an upset here, and I think the Steelers. I think Roethlisberger still has a little more in the tank, enough in the tank. I think Najee Harris is going to be a damn good running back for the Steelers, and I think the Steelers wide receivers are going to have a pretty good game. And don't get me wrong, the Bills defense is not a joke, but neither is the Steelers defense. I just smell an upset here, so I'm taking the Steelers straight up to win this upset here. Jets at Panthers. The Panthers, the line has shrunk. Panthers were giving 5.5 up until I guess like this morning. Now the Panthers are just giving 3.5. I'm giving the Panthers to win by quite a bit. Nothing against the Jets, but I feel like the Panthers are actually a pretty well-rounded team. It is a battle of two young teams, but I think the Panthers are more well-rounded. And this is Zach Wilson's first game. He's a rookie. It's his first game for the Jets, so it is his first game that accounts for a lot. So, and I think that kind of counts against him. So not that he's going to have a bad game, but I don't think he's going to play well enough to win. I think the Panthers just have too many weapons on both sides of the ball for the Jets to win. I'm taking the Panthers, giving the points. I think they're going to win by probably at least 5 points. And Jaguars at Texans. Jaguars are given 3. I'm taking the Jaguars, giving the points. Cardinals at Titans. Titans are given 3 points. I'm actually taking Cardinals with the points in this game. I'm taking the Titans straight up to win, but I think the Cardinals have a lot of talent now on both sides of the ball. The offense more than the defense. But it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough game for Cardinals because I think Derrick Henry is going to be really running. He's going to be running all over them. But I think the Cardinals are going to keep this close with their passing game and Kyler Murray's running ability. I'm not expecting too much from Cardinals' running game at all, to be honest with you. But I'm expecting a lot out of their passing game and what Kyler Murray can do to scramble and to make plays when he's scrambling and to rush for yards. I think Kyler Murray is going to be a big difference in this game. That's an understatement, of course. I'm not a genius for saying that, but I'm going to take, Titans are given 3. Again, I'm going to take the Cardinals with the points, and I'll take the Titans straight up to win. Moving on to the Eagles at Falcons. Falcons are laying 3 points. Everyone I know, I hear just it seems like everyone's taking the Falcons given the points, as if the Falcons are going to destroy the Eagles by a lot. I think this is going to be closer than people think. I'm going to take the Eagles with the points. I think the Falcons are going to win, but I'm going to take the Eagles with the points. I think Miles Sanders is going to have a really big game, and I do think that Kyle Pitts is going to have a big game. I think he's going to have a really big first game for his career. So I'd say if you got Kyle Pitts, I'd say play him. I think he's going to have a monster game. I wouldn't have any trepidation about Kyle Pitts. I think he's going to have a monster rookie season. But Miles Sanders is back, and for what I believe, just everything I've heard, I believe he's fully healthy. If he stays healthy, I think Miles Sanders is going to have a huge game against the Falcons defense. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to do pretty well. But I think the big thing here for the Eagles is going to be Miles Sanders. I think he'll have a monster game. Look out for a little Kenneth Gainwell as well. I love that guy too. But I'll take the Eagles with the points, and I'll take the Falcons straight up to win. Chargers at Washington. This line changed, and I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if maybe a Charger got injured or or what happened there. But I was surprised for most of this past week. The Chargers were giving a point, 1 point at Washington. I was surprised by that. I was actually not pulling, but I thought the Chargers were going to go into Washington and pull an upset, a close game, but an upset. And I was shocked to see when originally for most of this week, the Chargers were giving a point at Washington. So I was originally taking the Chargers to win straight up anyway. But now the line has changed as of this morning, and it's now Washington giving a point and a half, and that's how it should be. It should be Washington should be favored in this game, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if Washington did win this game. But I'm going with the Chargers with the upset. So I think the Chargers are going to win straight up. So yeah, I'm taking the Chargers with the upset in that game. I'm sticking with my Chargers pick. And you got 49ers at Lions. I think 49ers, they're giving 8.5 points. Originally, the line was, I think, 7.5 points. It's now moved up to 8.5 points. I'm taking the 49ers. I think they're going to win by at least 10 points, I'd say. I think they're going to dominate. I think their offense is back. Their wide receivers are healthy. Garoppolo's healthy. He knows you might not think he's a great quarterback, Garoppolo, but he knows that 49ers offense. I think they're going to roll. Nothing against the Lions. They're just a rebuilding team, and they're a young team. So the 49ers know what they're doing. They seem to be healthy, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And I think they're going to roll all over against the Lions. And again, Lions fans, that's nothing against your team. It's just that you're at the beginning stages of a rebuild. Seahawks at the Colts. Seahawks are giving 3 points. Originally, I was taking the Seahawks. Originally, I was taking the Seahawks just straight up to win and to cover the spread. Now that the quarterback is I'm sorry, the Colts quarterback. I'm brain farting on the name right now. Carson Wentz. Now that he appears to be playing this game and he appears to be healthy, I'm going to take the Colts with the points. I'm taking the Seahawks straight up to win, but I'm taking the Colts with the points. If this were a midseason game, I would take the Colts to win and pretty handily. I think the Colts are hands down actually better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks have a good offense. I don't like the Seahawks. I still don't like their offensive line, but I especially do not like the Seahawks defense. I don't like Seahawks defense. I don't think it's good. And I think the Colts are a very well-rounded team. The only reason why I'm picking the Seahawks to win this game is I think Carson Wentz is going to need a little time to gel in his new offense. I know he's with Frank Reich, who used to be either his offensive coordinator or his quarterback coach or quarterback coach back in when Wentz was doing very well for the Eagles. But he is on a new team, new players. He doesn't have T.Y. Hilton. He's got Pittman. It looks like is his number one wide receiver. So there's some scariness there going on for the Colts. But if this were a midseason game, I would take the Colts. But right now I'm going to go the Seahawks straight up to win. But I think the Colts will cover the 3 point spread. I am on the fence with that one. I think Colts have, they need a T.Y. Hilton. I'm not sold on Pittman. I'm not sold on him. And I'm also not sold on Jonathan Taylor as well. Jonathan Taylor needs to have a big game, and I think he can against the Seahawks defense. Like I said, I'm not impressed with the Seahawks defense, but Jonathan Taylor, you need to show up for your Colts. You need to show up for your Colts. But right now, I'll take the Colts with the points and the Seahawks straight up. Vikings at Bengals. The line stayed the same. Vikings giving three points. I think Vikings are going to cover by more than 3 points. They're going to win straight up by more than 3 points. Dolphins at the Patriots. Patriots are laying 3 points. I'm on the fence about this one. Right now, I change it to I'm taking the Dolphins with the points, and I'm taking the Patriots straight up to win. I think the Patriots are going to win. I know, listen, Miami is a talented team. They're still a young team, though. Miami is a much more talented team than the Patriots, in my opinion. And this is nothing against Mac Jones. It could have been Cam Newton at quarterback. I really don't care. But my concern is that Tua is going up against Belichick, who just has a field day with not just rookie quarterbacks, but young quarterbacks. With young quarterbacks, until they can prove that they can handle a Belichick defense, young quarterbacks have a hard time with Belichick and his Patriots. So I do think originally I was taking the Patriots I think even given the points, but I've changed this morning. I'm taking the Dolphins with the points, but I'm taking the Patriots straight up to win. Browns at the Chiefs. Chiefs are laying 5.5. I think that line might have changed. I think it was originally 6.5, but now it's down to 5.5. I'm taking the Browns with the upset, and that is a popular pick here at Toilets to Titles. I'm taking the Browns with the upset. I'm kind of going against what I don't know. I think what my heart thinks in that I don't know. The Browns have to listen. The Browns were a good team last year, and they're one of the most well-balanced teams in the NFL. They've got talent all over the place. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to handle that running game that the Browns have. It's phenomenal. Browns also have they have good receivers as well. But here's the thing about the Browns too, is that in my opinion, you've got to also, and they had a good year last year, Cleveland, but you also have to show up to Kansas City and prove that you can do it. And a win at Kansas City is a big ask. It's a big ask for a team that's been very bad for a long time. Um, a win like that against the two-time AFC defending champions, who won the Super Bowl 2 years ago in the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were just in the Super Bowl. It's a big ask, but I'm going to stick with my original pick. Browns with the upset in Kansas City. Browns with the upset. But I wouldn't be surprised by anything in that Browns game. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City shellacked them. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going to go with the Brown. I'm going to stick to my guns, and go with Browns with the upset. Broncos of the Giants. This is another game that I'm on the fence with. Broncos are laying 3 points. I'm going to stick with the Giants for the win in this game. Straight up, I think they'll win by like a point. And I'm trying to decide whether or not that's a homer in me or if I actually believe that. But I do think the Giants have I do think that, yeah, I do think they're going to win this game. It all depends on Saquon. I mean, Galladay, it seems like Galladay is going to be playing as well, and he needs to play. Daniel Jones needs him to play, and he needs to be a number one wide receiver, and they need Galladay to play and to show up. But above all, they need Saquon Barkley to play. But we don't really know how many touches he's going to get. It's his first game back from a major knee surgery, and they are playing a Thursday game. This Thursday game they're playing against Washington, divisional game. So 4 days rest, divisional game coming up. It's Saquon's first game back. You would think naturally that they're going to want to limit his touches at least somewhat, and just it's not so much save him for the divisional game. It's just that he's coming back from this injury, and you want to build him up. Give him some touches week one, give him more touches week two, and maybe week three you fully unleash him. I don't know. I think Joe Judge was saying that they're not going to have any type of limit of touches that he gets this game. I don't believe that. I think that's more of a mind game type of thing that he's playing, but we'll see. But right now, I'm going with the Giants to cover. Oh, well, I should say the Giants are getting 3 points. I'm going to take that. I think the Giants are going to win by a point. I think these are two very well matched up teams who kind of like mirror each other in terms of talent as well. Interesting game, Giants and Broncos. Packers at Saints. Packers are only giving 3.5 points at New Orleans. I know it sounds ridiculous saying only giving 3.5 points uh, in New Orleans, but we know Drew Brees isn't there. Michael Thomas is on the PUP list. We don't know what Jameis Winston's going to do. I don't think Winston's a joke, but we just don't know what's going to happen there. But they still have Kamara. I think that counts for a lot. The Saints still have a pretty good defense. But you know what? I am taking the Packers, giving the 3.5 points. I think the Packers are going to lay a shellacking on the Saints today. And that at Toilets to Titles, that seems to be the common thought, the common opinion of Toilets and Titles that the Packers are going to seriously take care of business in New Orleans today. And I think I'm going to stick with that pick. Bears at Rams. Bears are laying 7.5 against, I'm sorry, the Rams are laying 7.5 in this game. I'm taking the Rams, laying the points. I think the Rams are probably going to win by at least 10 points. Andy Dalton's quarterback. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. I think the Rams and Stafford are ready to rock and roll this season, and they are serious NFC Championship contenders. The Rams this year, with as long as they stay healthy, even with Cam Akers being injured, I think the Rams are serious NFC Championship contenders. That's not an understatement. I think most people would agree with that anyway. But I'll take the Rams giving 7.5 to the Bears. I think the Rams will win by probably at least 10. And then the Monday night game, Ravens at Raiders. Originally, this was going to look like it was going to be a very good game, and it could still be. The Ravens, as of this morning, are still giving 3.5 points at Las Vegas. I'm surprised by that. with all the injuries they had this week, to their running back core, and I believe their cornerback, I believe their star cornerback may be out as well. I haven't checked up on that. I could be wrong about that. But you know what? In this game, I'm going to take the Raiders straight up. I think originally I was taking the Raiders with the points, but I was taking the Ravens straight up to win. Now I'm just taking the Raiders just to pull the upset because I'm shocked that Ravens are still giving 3.5 points in this game to the Raiders in Vegas. I'm very surprised by that. And you know what? So I'll take the Raiders with the upset in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens win because the Ravens just they know how to show up. When you think that they're down and out, that's usually when the Ravens show up. I have a lot of respect for that team, that organization, and they usually just show up, the Ravens. So don't be surprised if the Ravens win this game. Lamar Jackson runs for like 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Don't be surprised. And Ravens still have a legit defense. Like I said, I forgot what happened to their number one cornerback. I didn't check up on him. I don't know if he's out as well. That would be a huge blow. But I'm taking the Raiders with the upset in this. Definitely taking the Raiders with the points, and I think they're gonna win outright. So, guys, those are my updated picks for the Sunday and Monday games. I'll tell you, I think this is gonna be a great first week for the NFL. As a Giants fan, I'm excited and scared because I do not want to get off to an 0-1, 0-2, 0-4, 0-5 start again. We need to start off, have a good start to the year. Winning today would help a lot. You got the second game against Washington on Thursday. If we could actually get to 2-0, that would be wonderful. Obviously, nothing's written in stone with the Giants. I'm not saying take it to the bank. I'm just saying, as a Giants fan, man, for once, we need to get off to a decent start. So I'm pulling for my Giants, of course, obviously in the 425 game against the Broncos. We'll see what goes on there, but we have a lot of good matchups, and I'm really looking forward. I'm so glad the NFL season's here. It's been a long off season. I'm so looking forward to it. Before I go, real quick, let's talk about the other shows. Monday night, this is our eight. This we have 8 shows in season. Okay, and these are the shows. Monday night, we've got the waiver wire for Patreon members only. So it's waiver wire advice. It's for Patreon members only. Tuesday night at 8 p.m. It's the Toilets Title Show. That's our flagship program. Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Joe Knows. That's me. It's Joe Knows. It's the NFL review of the previous week's games and the preview of the upcoming week games. And then following that, Wednesday at 10 p.m. is Dollars to Deuces, which is weekly betting advice. Okay, and Thursday night at 8 p.m. a dash of DFS. Saturday at 7:30 p.m. is Down Under Dynasty. That's our Australian team and the fantasy advice they have to give. And they're also talking about the NFL games as well. But that's our team down in Australia. 7:30 p.m. Saturday nights. Again, Down Under Dynasty. And then you've got Sunday at 8 a.m. Again, Cup of Joe with me, which is an NCAA recap, as well as an updated NFL preview for the Sunday and Monday games. And then following this show, guys, I believe at 10:30 today, it says 10 a.m. It says 10 a.m. in the blue bar, but I think it's actually 10:30 a.m. is the Blitz, which is our call-in show with Mike and Alex. So it's a lot of it's start sit advice, other fantasy advice. This is going to be a very viewer driven show. You know, it's going to be a call-in show. It's going to be also people, if you don't want to call in, you can send in questions via chat. They're going to get to your questions. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going on, I think, from 10:30 until 12:30. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Check it out today. The first episode is today, guys. Check it out. I know I will be. And real quick before I go, we have our new website that launched August 1st, toiletstotitles.com. Check it out. It's where we have our videos, articles, tons of fantasy football content and advice. Check it out. I'm really proud of that website. Where you can follow the show, where you can see the show, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, and Facebook, where we have 2 pages, which is Toilets to Titles, and the second one is When a Family Breaks, which is our Facebook page dedicated to the trading of sports memorabilia. And last but not least, you can go to patreon.com to become a patron. It's patreon.com/toilets to titles, where you can become a patron, excuse me. And at patreon.com, you can learn how you can further support the show. And again, the Twitter handles for me and all my colleagues here at Toilets to Titles. Great bunch of guys. We all have our own shows or articles. Some of us just do shows. Some of us just do articles. Some of us do both. Check us all out. We're a good crew to follow. And last but not least, just a reminder, please hit that like and subscribe button, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review. Okay, second episode of Sunday Cup of Joe, Toilets to Titles is a wrap. Everyone, hope you enjoyed it. Had a great time doing it. I love doing this. Enjoy your NFL games Sunday and Monday. Peace. I'll catch you Wednesday night. Take care, everyone.